So welcome to this afternoon's panel. I'm Craig Clymer. I'm the Judge Executive of McCracken County, Kentucky. That's where the Paducah, Kentucky DOE site is located. So I oversee all the county government operations outside of the city of Paducah. So our panel today is a august body here with us. We have April Ladd. She is the site lead for the DOE's Paducah site in Western Kentucky. We have Zach Lafontaine. Zach is the DOE federal lead for the new operations and site mission support contract, where he will also oversee special projects such as leasing of federal land. And then Myrna Redfield. Myrna is the program manager for Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership, the deactivation and remediation contractor at the Paducah site. We have Bruce Wilcox, who is the Greater Paducah Economic Development President and CEO. He's been a leading member of Paducah's business community for more than 25 years. And then we have Jantien Shizuru, who is the program manager at General Matters Uranium Enrichment Project, who recently announced that they are coming to the Paducah site. And so we'll jump right in. This has been an exciting year of cleanup progress and new developments at both Paducah and Portsmouth. What, in your opinion, has helped the sites get to this moment? April?
Yeah, so first off, you get me, April Ladd, the Paducah site lead. It was going to be Joel, but he's got other duties as assigned right now. So happy to be here and be able to attend. But really, I think the key is a clear vision. And I think Joel, as the PPPO manager, has really set that for Paducah and for Portsmouth. And it was successful at Portsmouth, and we're kind of implementing the same thing at Paducah. And I think the other key factor is the community and all the stakeholders, the regulators, US EPA, Kentucky, the contractors, the USW. I mean, just everybody working together in the same direction, everybody working hand in hand. We're all lockstep, footstep together from the site standpoint and the community. The community does a fantastic job. Just a couple weeks ago, Paducah was here in DC for the Paducah DC fly-in. And I think we had our record number. And each year, Sandra Wilson, the president of the Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce, says, "That's my max. I can't take any more." But this year she had 80. So it's amazing when your community's behind you and come and represent that way. And so, you know, I think that also leads to the success that we've had at Paducah for sure.
All right, great. Bruce and Zach, would you like to join in?
Sure, I would echo everything April said, and you know, a shout out to Joel and April and Yvette we've just seen a phenomenal amount of increased collaboration over the last 18 to 24 months, and their partnership with us as a community, and especially from an economic development perspective. Our organization, we recruit jobs and industry into our community, and it's just been a phenomenal and enhanced relationship, such that we've even partnered with DOE in touring other sites. We've been to Portsmouth, we've been to Fernald, we've been to Oak Ridge, looking at best practices and things that have been going on in their communities and how they're positioning themselves for reindustrialization and how we can bring that back and communicate to our community and do some master planning or vision casting, if you will. I think another thing that's been a catalyst to our where we're going is the change in administration and the desire to accelerate reuse of the property and tie that into with what's going on in our national economy with the increase in digital currency, the significant increase in AI data centers, the power grid being understaffed or having under capacity. It's been a perfect storm, and hopefully some things I can share with a little bit later, maybe in the program. Paducah is very uniquely positioned within the position of the Mid-Continent Independent Systems Operator Network, and very well situated for power generation, getting power in and out of the grid. So that coupled with our partnership with DOE, it's just been a phenomenal relationship, and that's helped us get to where we are.
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Zach?
Yeah, I'll echo some what Bruce just said. You know, I think speaking at least for Portsmouth, I'll do my best elevator pitch of the Portsmouth cleanup as the uranium guy. So, you know, bear with me. Jeremy's probably watching and cringing, but, you know, really it started about 10 years ago. We partnered with Ohio University to do, you know, basically what does done look like for you all in the community? And what was chosen pretty overwhelmingly was industrialization. So, you know, energy park type of thing. So we've been working towards that vision for the past, you know, 10 years or so. And we actually, you know, formed our whole cleanup approach to solidify that to where we can bring back contiguous land to the community. We've transferred about 350 acres at Portsmouth already. And you see companies like Trillium and Oklo purchasing land from the community. And that's definitely exciting for the workforce. It's really just made a great positive vibe because, you know, it's pretty emotional for folks. You're working yourself out of a job, but now you see, you know, things are happening with the land transfer process, and now with the leasing process that we've got with this administration backing. It's very exciting. You know, at least for PPPO, we haven't done a new lease before General Matter in about 20 years. We have the arrangement with Centrus, so we've got a model that we're following, and excited about continuing that forward to expedite.
Well, and I'll just say this. I've been in this office for about 7 years. When I came in, I was told by DOE, you know, 20, maybe 25 years, might be 30, and we could start looking at possibility of transferring land from DOE to the local government or to private companies. And so here we are 7 years later, instead of 20, 25, 30, getting that done. So it's been a rapid fire, and we're excited about that. So,
Judge, if I may add,
Sure.
there are two other factors that I think are important to share with everybody about why we are where we are in Paducah. The first one is communication. That one, the communication has increased, is at all-time high. I have been at that site for many, many years, and I have not seen communication the way we have it now. You know, we talk to the community with the regulators on a weekly basis, and sometimes on a daily basis. We're talking with everybody involved, and the goal here is no surprises. And also the second factor is there's a grant that DOE did provide to the Chamber of Commerce. And through that grant, the Chamber of Commerce was able to get every single stakeholder that wanted to be involved, that has a say at the site. And the whole goal of that grant was to understand what is it that our community wants in terms of the end state for Paducah. And the results are they wanted to reindustrialize the site. So once we knew what the end goal is, everything we're doing at the site now, we're focused on getting to that end state. So everything surrounds around that. So I think everybody that is involved knows what we want to accomplish, and we're all working together to get there.
all right. Thank you. So one of the biggest announcements this year is the lease of land and reuse of Duff 6 cylinders at Paducah to General Matter to build a new enrichment plant. So Jantien, can you tell me how this come about, and why was General Matter so interested in the Paducah site?
Absolutely. Quick introduction for those of you who don't know us. General Matter is the American enrichment company. And so we were founded to restore domestic enrichment capabilities to the United States. AI, advanced manufacturing, growing industries, all of these things demand power, and power demands fuel. And so it's really our goal to clear that bottleneck to producing fuel so that we can allow this country to continue to grow. I think as you heard from everyone on this panel so far, Paducah really set the stage for us to accomplish that mission. We signed a lease with the DOE, a multi-decade lease for 100 acres at the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant, and that did include a cylinder transfer component to it. And so with that lease, we are, with that lease, we're planning to execute our mission to restore domestic enrichment capabilities. Why Paducah for us? I think when you look at community support, you feel it very much in Paducah. And community support, that doesn't just mean people telling us that they like the idea of our project. It's every person you see on this panel stepping up in a big way to help us to get this deal done on the DOE side, and with the folks at Four Rivers. Each step of the lease process, we had people expeditiously and efficiently doing what they needed to do to get the lease done. And then with Bruce, just opening doors to the community, introducing us to key stakeholders who are really allowing us to be successful in Paducah. And so for us, I think going to a nuclear community and all of the benefits that come with that, you see it in the university systems and with the community colleges. They already have the programs in place to support the workforce that we need. And so I think there's just so many things about Paducah that are really compelling to us as we are looking to build this project.
Thank you. So EM is realizing significant reuse of the stockpile of Duff 6 at the two sites, Paducah and Portsmouth. Material has been made available to NNSA to assist with modernization and to private companies to spur development of new enrichment plants. Well, Zach, tell us a little bit about how this is helping the overall effort to the disposition of Duff 6 stockpile and what other progress is being made in reducing and disposing of that inventory.
Yeah, so we have a pretty sizable portion of our inventory that's eligible and identified for reuse purposes, which is great. Not all Duff 6 is created equal. So the way the gaseous fusion plants worked, they would pull off the product, and then the tails stream would kind of fluctuate based on power consumption costs and things of the uranium constraints and the market. So therefore, we do have a large, sizable inventory of material that's at the higher end of what you would typically see as tails from an enricher. So about 5-6 years ago, we strategically started processing the lowest assay material first that would be least interesting to other entities, hoping that opportunities like that we find ourselves in now would be there. So that's really been a huge way to kind of tee things up for us. I mentioned the NNSA mission. So we have material set aside for them to feed domestic uranium enrichment capabilities in the future. We also have material set aside for use in their high purity depleted uranium program. So that's very exciting. We have the GLE arrangement at Paducah for a sizable amount of cylinders, and now the general matter. So all these things can shave decades off the life cycle if they come to fruition. So that's very exciting for us. We still have plenty of cylinders to process now. That's the good thing. So, but the plants are running really well. We've, I think, talked at the past cleanup workshops and waste management about some of the modifications we've done. We're really seeing the fruit of that now. We've done a lot to eliminate single point failures. So Portsmouth had their second best year in the history of the project this year, and Paducah also exceeded their production targets. So we're kind of just been chopping wood this year from a deconversion standpoint. I'm also very excited that we're installing some new modifications that'll speed us up as far as how fast we can process a cylinder, and also takes away another single point failure, which has been a problem for us in the eyes of our vacuum pumps. So the plant's running well. Everybody's moving in the same direction. We're setting aside this material for reuse. The material itself, it's oddly enough, the way the GDPs were operated, the depleted material is some of the cleanest material that came out of the cascade. So we have characterization information on every cylinder. We can see what was going on, what material was being fed at the time. So we've sampled hundreds of cylinders and proven that they meet the ASTM spec for UF6 aside from the enrichment piece. So it's very, very happy that we're able to leverage kind of the strategic set aside of cylinders that we've had for the reuse. And then it's a great benefit to General Matter, who, when you look at the just uranium fuel cycle in itself, there's kind of a knothole on the conversion market as far as producing UF6. And then the other great thing about our inventory that's hard to put a price on is it's all domestic. So that's probably it.
All right. Well, while we're on that topic, so DOE chose to use leasing to provide land to General Matter rather than through a land swap approach, as is being done for other projects, for instance, Global Laser Enrichment, GLE. Zach, why was that approach chosen and what are the advantages and challenges in using leasing?
I think it affords a lot of advantages to a company like General Matter or any other entity. And one of the main things is speed. To your point, a land transfer can take upwards of a year or two. If you go through the classic land transfer process with the lease, we're able to get the General Matter lease finalized in 4-ish months. And another big thing that's a benefit to them is they can leverage all of our site programs that are already stood up, like our security guards, Proforce, our emergency management program. They can integrate with that. And then we get the benefit of that being on a cost reimbursable basis. And, they as other site tenants can leverage those programs versus having to stand up their own. So that's a huge piece that leasing affords you versus the classic land transfer. The other thing, like I said, we do have a model for this. So the administration was definitely pushing for leasing. We have had a lease in place with Centris, albeit that's administered mainly on the NE side of the house. But we do provide services to them similar to what we plan to do with General Matter. And then the other thing about the lease is Jantien mentioned the Duff 6 cylinders being a pivotal piece of that. So via the 10 CFR 770 process that we followed, it allows for payment in kind. So those Duff 6 cylinders can essentially be used to pay for the lease rent. So it really just made sense the more we looked at it, and especially with the speed that General Matter was interested in going, moving forward with the project. That's.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
If I can hop into just to echo Zach's sentiments, the shared services agreement, I think, is a really compelling aspect of the lease versus the land transfer. It just really helps everyone to play to their strong suits. And so we're able to execute the commercial build in a way quickly and get that facility up and running, but leverage the DOE experience and the infrastructure that they already have. So again, I think using everyone's best qualities to help us come together to make this project a reality is something that we thought was compelling about that leasing aspect.
So anybody, what other opportunities exist at Portsmouth and Paducah along the line?
So I think you see it at Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge was the first gaseous diffusion plant that went through cleanup and reindustrialization. And then Portsmouth's following along using their lessons learned and things that they've implemented. And then Paducah, we kind of get the best of all the worlds because we're the third one. And now we've got processes that are more efficient. And like was mentioned with the lease and the time, it was amazing to be able to get that in place that quick. We learned some lessons with it. Again, like Zach said, there was first time doing this in quite a while, so we were a little rusty, but yeah, it was amazing, everybody working together to get that across the finish line. And I think too, as mentioned a little bit earlier, it's the administration's push for kind of figuring out how to do things more efficiently. What is the requirements versus, what process do we have implemented? And so when you start kind of taking off some of these process type things and just look at the requirements, you can pare it down and do things a lot quicker. So I think that encouragement from the administration to look at how to do these things allows for the opportunity for more property to be leased, more property to be transferred. So, I think there's a lot of different functions. Again, I'll go back to the community being involved. They at Paducah, very much like Portsmouth. We got Bruce can chime in here in a minute, but we've got people calling him all the time, chatting about, what can we do? Is there property available? What all are y'all doing? And so as mentioned a little bit yesterday, Paducah gaseous diffusion plant was selected as part of the request for information for the AI that went out with the DOE policy group. And so, you know, I believe it was mentioned that the request for offer will be going out soon, where AI companies will be, you know, submitting solicitation on their vision and, you know, what kind of acreage and things that they can bring. And I really can see, again, going back to vision, you know, the whole full cycle at Paducah. You can have fuel enrichment, like General Matters doing and GLE's doing. You can have AI there. And then you have a phased approach to the power needs and where that's coming from. So you can see that, you know, hey, it's perfect for small modular reactor or nuclear power. And then you have the whole cycle in one little package. And, you know, I think that is also what makes the gaseous diffusion plants attractive to the AI and the industry, is because of being able to cite the whole cycle together there. So I'll let Bruce chime in.
Yeah, I would add that I think from a community perspective, we don't even have a realization yet or a full appreciation of the impact these projects are going to have. Over the past 5 years, we've done about 20 economic development deals that have cumulatively maybe $600-700 million of capital investment, with a recurring annual economic impact of about $160-170 million per year. The General Matter project, in and of itself, is $1.5 billion. It's the largest project ever to site in Western Kentucky. The cumulative annual recurring economic impact on it is about $71 million a year using our M-Plan economic modeling software. So this one project in and of itself surpasses the capital investment of all projects we've done over the past 5 years, and approximately half of the recurring annual economic impact going forward. Couple that with Global Laser Enrichment, which has a different staffing, a different operating model, which will have a capital investment that will be larger than what General Matter has, and then more than double the staffing capacity. We estimate that project to have a recurring annual economic impact of about $175 million per year in and of itself. So that one project in and of itself equals or surpasses all of the projects that we've done over the past 5 years. April mentioned more land becoming available. I think that's really going to open the doors for a lot more industrial development. We already have a letter of intent with Wiley Roads with Trillium H2 technology. Wiley's sitting here on the front row with all of his friends. I would encourage you to get to know Wiley if you haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. But it's a $1.8 billion hydrogen project with about 285 jobs that would have a tremendous economic impact on it. April mentioned large-scale AI data centers. We are very, very uniquely situated where we are with the electrical infrastructure that's in place there. We have 4 power generation companies that have transmission infrastructure that ends or passes through the PGDP site. So there in and of itself is an opportunity to buy power from 4 different companies within the DOE site. In addition to that, we're in the heart of the Mid-Continent Independent Systems Operator Network. That's a power grid that runs from Canada all the way through the Gulf. And if you could envision an hourglass shape, we are in the belt of that hourglass. And there's an additional amount of transmission infrastructure that passes through the site in and of itself there. MISO has about 200,000 megawatts of installed capacity. On any given day, there's 85,000 to 115,000 megawatts of utilized electrical capacity. So there in and of itself is another opportunity to pump a substantial amount of electricity into the site. The site's already complete with a 30 million gallon per day that's permitted water pump that's excellent for cooling mechanisms or processed water. It's in very close proximity to our triple rail site. It's an industrial development site. It's one of 3 sites in the Midwest that has rail service north, south, east, and west from a single location. that's direct served by 2 Class 1s and a Class 2 company. So a tremendous advantage from a logistical perspective. We're in the process of developing a new river port. We have access to a foreign trade zone. Just so many good things. Very close proximity to the trunk line natural gas line. I think we all agree that the long-term vision is to have a parallel path utilizing nuclear power generators, small modular nuclear reactors. But on an interim basis, we're about 6 miles from the trunk line natural gas line, which has a significant amount of unsubscribed natural gas that could be an ideal feedstock for a clean hydrogen project or fueling combined cycle natural gas power generation. So we really like where we're situated and with the opportunities that we have in Paducah.
Thank you. I don't want to let time get away without mentioning what a great partnership we've had in our community with DOE and with Joel Bradburn. He and I have worked together since he came on a few years ago. And you know, if I call him, he answers. He calls me, obviously I answer. Don't I? And so I told him when he came on a few years ago, I said, look, Joel, if you just hang around me and pay attention, you might amount to something someday. And so here he is now acting EM1. So there's that. So, but it's just a great story. I tell people when I go about talking to groups, you know, the plant was built in the early 50s to generate uranium for the war effort for nuclear energy. Shut down in, I think, 2013. Since then, there's some 40,000 containers of Duff 6 sitting out there. What are we going to do with it? And now the beauty of it is it comes full cycle, and they're going to enrich that uranium to put into commerce, either for military or commercial civilian use. And I mean, we will be a major player in the United States energy independence right in McCracken County, Kentucky. So we're proud of that, and we're flag wavers in McCracken County, and that's a great story. So EM has been implementing an innovative regulatory approach dubbed Decision 2029 to dramatically streamline the number of regulatory documents needing preparation and review, with the aim of being able to accelerate cleanup. What's the current status of this effort, and what lessons have been learned so far? April, and then Myrna, if you will.
Yeah, so I think it's integrated vision. I go back to, you know, cleanup used to look like meeting cleanup levels and then the brownfield. And so now, you know, we're integrating reindustrialization with cleanup to be able to have property and land available for transfer sooner. And I think those combined and Paducah looking at the regulatory strategy and the efficiency with what we had in place, we saw that we needed to kind of do things a little differently. And taking lessons learned from Portsmouth and kind of what they had in place, regulatorily wise. We are similar but different. Paducah is on the national priority list and Portsmouth isn't, but you know, we kind of had this vision of 3 records of decisions. Ports has about 3 that's implementing majority of their cleanup efforts. And so we started working with the regulators, US EPA, Region 4, and Kentucky to realign our regulatory strategy to try to work on accelerating the cleanup, to be able to have land available, to be able to transfer sooner. Kind of like Zach mentioned, you know, that brownfield approach really doesn't afford workers a positive opportunity to be working yourself out of a job. But if you have reindustrialization going on at the same time as you're doing cleanup, they have a vision. They can see, I can go work here, I could go work here, I could go work there. and they're not working themselves out of a job, they're working themselves to their next job. So I think that that is really important. And then kind of back to the Decision 2029, which no surprises, Joel's calling it Decision 2027 if we can get some money. But hey, we pulled the lease off in 4 months. So hey, I think we can do Decision 2027 too. So we'll make him proud. So anyway, back to the regulatory strategy. You know, we had previously in our structure 51 records of decision, and now we've kind of got that down to 5, which you're changing your focus, right? You're changing your focus from like paper-based document to actions, more bias for action, and that's very important because you know you're using your dollars to efficiently do cleanup. And again, I think the acceleration is important so that, you know, some of these project windows are pretty small. And so you have to kind of get in when the getting's good, you know? So I think, you know, to do that, we have to be able to accelerate cleanup. And again, like I can't thank the regulators enough. The department and the regulators for Paducah haven't always been easy to deal with, both all parties, and we have a great working relationship right now. And I think, you know, everybody's hearing the message from the administration on how can we do things more efficient? How can we, you know, take taxpayers' dollar and cut off some of these processes? What are the requirements? And everybody, I think, is listening and seeing that, right? And again, we're progressing faster than it's hard to even keep up with how fast we're moving along through the process. But Paducah, again, we're aligning regulatory strategy very similar to Ports's strategy. They have 3 main records of decision. We're aligning to that. We have a site management plan. It's captured in, and we set 3-year milestones each year with the regulators. And I think really, you know, everybody, again, working lockstep together to move things forward is really key. And Myrna mentioned communication. Communication's key. Trust, right? Trust is important. It's really hard to get, and you can lose it really quick. And so I think that the team, the department, the regulators, everybody is meshing and gelling really well right now. And, you know, it's sometimes better lucky than good on some of this. And the personalities and just everything's clicking. And we're being able to accelerate and do some really cool stuff pretty quickly, amazingly quickly. So.
Well, Myrna, how's this approach working for Four Rivers Nuclear? And is there any reason you see that it would not be applicable across the complex and on other sites?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about where we are in the implementation of this strategy. Decision 2029 is 3 big decisions instead of it's holistic cleanup at the site. Like we heard yesterday, Joel said we have reduced the paperwork by 90%. 5 big decisions. We are focusing on 3 now. The first one is looking at what we're going to do with the media. The second one is what are we going to do with the buildings for the D&D of the facilities. And then the third one, and most importantly, is what are we going to do with the waste? So we're evaluating, are we going to be sending the waste offsite? Are we going to be building an on-site disposal cell? So those are the 3 big decisions that we are working on right now. To get this done, the site, we have been doing cleanup since 1988. We were doing everything in small batches, you know, small decisions at a time. This is holistic. It's something that we have never done before. So in order for us to implement that, we needed to step back and see who has done this and how can we get it done? You know, we needed a shift. So we FRMP created a new directorship. We brought a director to be over this work. He was the main person working at Portsmouth because as you heard from April, this was done at Portsmouth. It was done well. So why recreate the wheel? The thing with the team that was at Portsmouth, they had already scattered all over the reservation. There were different DOE sites. So the goal for FRMP was to get all these people back as one team, and little by little, we're getting there. So we have a team, we brought people to help us from Hanford. Something that April also mentioned, we're a little bit different because we're an MPL site. So, and we're also working with EPA Region 4. At Portsmouth, they were working with EPA Region 5. So we needed to ensure that we had lessons learned, not only from what happened at Portsmouth, but what has happened at Oak Ridge, and ensuring that our team included members from the Oak Ridge Reservation so they could also bring that information to us. On top of that, there were key people that we wanted to have on the team, but we knew we could not have them on the team. So we created an advisory board, and people like Dennis Carr, Mark Jewett, a lot of you guys have heard these names. These are people that have done so much in our industry. So we are using them whenever we have any specific questions. We are reaching out to them, and they're helping us. They have come to the site to work with us as well. So again, one of the key things was developing the list of lessons learned, starting from where the other sites left it. If there were issues, we wanted to make sure that we addressed them early, or if we could avoid them. We also, in terms of just getting all those lessons, we put together an action plan, and then we started implementing that. We know that at other sites, there were some sampling that needed to be done that was determined, they were already working on the waste acceptance criteria for their on-site disposal cell. They found out that they needed more information. They had to take samples afterwards and do some changes. Now we know that. We're taking those samples ahead of starting the waste acceptance criteria development. We also know that at other sites, something that has stopped the process or slowed down the project and disputes is the different regulations that you have to implement. So what we're doing is we're working with legal and from all parties, regulators, FRMP, DOE, and in Kentucky, and we're meeting and discussing these ARRs that need to be applied and trying to get those resolved upfront in parallel so that the project doesn't get impacted. In order for us to get to Decision 2029, and now, as you heard, Joel wants us to think Decision 2027. In order for us to get there, we need to look at every requirement and see what we can get out of the way that doesn't add any value, and just make sure that everything we do it safe. So where are we with the project? The project team that we have already developed the scoping documents for all 3 decisions. Those have gone to EPA in Kentucky, and we have received comments from them. We have also started doing some sampling that we need in order to get data for our waste acceptance criteria. The team is also in the field. We completed the first phase of the geotechnical sampling that was needed to determine if it's even safe to have a circular cell in Paducah. Seismic study has been completed. We are currently working on developing the RI, the remedial investigation / feasibility study report. We're working with EPA in Kentucky to determine how we can accelerate these documents, make them a little bit different than what our federal facility agreement requires. And we're combining and bundling the different documents. So we're doing the RIFS / proposed plan. So once we get there, the record of decision can easily be done after that. So the only way we're going to get here is looking at things differently and working as a team. Communication, as I said, is at all times high. We have calls with EPA in Kentucky every single week. We have calls with DOE to ensure that we're all aligned every single week. Sometimes on a daily basis, we're talking to all the different players. So the team, we are really busy implementing Decision 2029 with the goal to expedite it and bring in to 2027, but we're not committing to that yet. So we're working it.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about how you continue to advance cleanup while working through the CERCLA decision process, but I think you've touched on anything more you want to say?
Yeah, there's a few more things. At Paducah, we're doing Decision 2029. That is, as I said, a directorate. We have a team that is focused on that, and everybody has to help this team in order for us to be successful. But on top of that, our contract, FRMP, is the deactivation and remediation contractor for the Department of Energy. So we're doing deactivation activities in parallel. We are similar to Portsmouth. We are working on the process gases diffusion plant buildings. And the first one that we're addressing is C333. We completed the activation of that one, and we have moved our personnel to 337 at this point. We're partnering with the USW. every day in and day out. They're helping us get the work done in the field. And then I have to say, in order to be successful at Paducah, what we're doing is we're copying everything we can from somebody that has done it before us. So we don't have any shame in doing that. And I have to do a big shout out to Portsmouth, because whenever we call Portsmouth for any question, it doesn't matter what it is, they're available, and they even send people to help us to make sure that as we go through the different steps that we have to go through, we do not have the same issues they had. We have been able to send engineers, rat techs, all kinds of personnel up to Portsmouth to look at the holistic cleanup approach, because again, we're shifting people's frame of mind, and people were always thinking small. Now we have to step back and think big. So the activation is going really well. Another thing that I have to give a lot of credit to April is that in parallel, we continue to look at different chemicals that we have at the site that we no longer need and that are potentially impacting our community. We have a lot of emergency management type of scenarios where we know that chemicals that we had on site, if there was a release or anything, could have impacted our neighbors. So little by little, we have been removing all those. And I'm pleased to say that this year we did our triennial review for all the chemicals and the emergency management scenarios. And we went from close to 90 scenarios to down to 27. And we don't have any scenario, no scenario at all impacts our neighbor. So right now, anything that we have is just internally to the plant. So that is one of the things that we have also been doing. We started with R114. We had 8.5 million pounds of R114 at the site, the largest in the world. I'm happy to say that as of next week, we have our last shipment for this FY. We'll be down to like 2.5 million. That also has reduced a lot of risk for the plant and our workers. And we heard Mark Duff mention we had PFAS containerized. We had AFFF containerized at the site. And that was focused to make sure that we got that offsite. We're getting that. The last shipment is going on Tuesday, and we will be 100% done with all the containerized AFFF that we had at the site. So it's just focusing on ensuring that we continue to reduce risk at the site, continue to do the activation so that we're ready. So whenever this decision on a surplus cell is made, that we have the buildings ready to be put into the buildings, to the surplus cell after it's built. And just working as a team to ensure that all parties are talking, and when we get to opening that cell, if that decision is made that the cell is going to be open in Paducah, we're ready to work it and continue, getting the cleanup. Another thing that we did not mention is that this Decision 2029 approach, the holistic approach, is bringing in the life cycle for Paducah for about 20 years in. So there's a lot of savings, up to $5 billion. So there's a lot of great things that we are really proud of about what is happening in Paducah with Decision 2029 and everything that is happening with the different leases and new missions.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So April and Zach, can you tell us a little bit about this one PPPO approach and how it's contributed to successes at both Paducah and Portsmouth?
Yeah, so you heard Myrna mention about Portsmouth and Paducah working together, and I think that has been key. And we've had great leadership pressing for us to all work together. Usually, if I'm going to management with an issue or a question or something, the first question is going to be what did Ports do, and vice versa. What is Paducah doing about, and so. Being both gaseous diffusions, having Oak Ridge already, well down the road, we're able to take all those lessons learned and apply them for Paducah. And so Paducah is kind of getting the back end of the efficiency by everybody else going first. But we've also taken initiative on some things that, in particular, non-destructive assay, and coming up with methods and ways to scan or measure equipment. And so we were able to take some of the things that we've progressed in that area and share with Portsmouth to help them accelerate their characterization So really, we are leveraging back and forth each other. We collaborate. Typically, like we have integrated calls all the time, very routine calls. Usually, if one of my folks come to me at the site and ask, "What do you think about this?" I'll say, "Hey, have you called ports? Have you talked to ports?" And vice versa. And so, I mean, really, the transfer of knowledge and the knowledge shares are happening. It's really the hallmark of the one PPPO, trying to be as integrated and focus on doing things similar. Not all things can be done just maybe exactly the same way, but it's a starting point. And then, you've got that. You've always got somebody you can call and say, "Hey, have you ever experienced this? Or have you ever had this issue?" Or, so I think, really for Paducah, for sure, we have really leveraged off of Portsmouth, and we've tried to help them as well. And like I mentioned, the NDA initiative and bringing that forward and them being able to take what we had and put it in the field and use it. So I think too, as Myrna mentioned, looking at things big picture, when the plant was in operation, kind of the cleanup side of the house was hard to really do a whole lot because the gaseous diffusion enrichment was still ongoing. And so it kind of was, well, let's look at this here and that there and hit this here and that there. So we really had a piecemeal approach. And then when the department got the plant back and the plant shut down, which we got the plant back in 2014, transferred back to the department, you know, we were still looking at things by the pieces. And so I think, this holistic approach of cleanup is going to address all issues, not just one issue here or one issue there, and really make cleanup more efficient. And, that equates to what was going to take years is happening now. And like Myrna mentioned, bringing the schedule and the life cycle in 20 years plus, the escalation on 20 years plus makes it worth it. So I think, just looking at things differently, have an open mind, I mean, whenever Joel's like, "Hey, we can implement this regulatory strategy that Ports is using at Paducah," people were like, "Are you crazy? Have you worked with us and our regulators? Like what?" And then like, "Hey, let's give it a shot. Let's go for it." And, I mean, here we are and making it happen. And so you have to really be mind open, and everybody, all the different parties have to be thinking that way. And, yep, we all learn from the past, and the past is the past. But, I think having open minds and communicating and working together is key to the success. And then the one PPPO approach, taking what Ports kind of is doing and modeling that for Paducah. And, they're at Portsmouth, they're taking lessons from Oak Ridge. And so, we at Paducah are getting kind of 2 times lessoned on being able to do things more efficient with less because of all of those lessons and the knowledge transfer and shares that we've had over time. So.
Yeah, I kind of switch gears a little bit here, but for the DUF 6 plants in particular, so the DUF 6 contract has always been, since inception, one contractor at 2 different sites. So it, kind of was the first one PPPO, if you will, experiment, so to speak. And we're definitely seeing a lot of the benefits from that. It's very nice to have somebody 7 hours away. We're talking engineers, that kind of thing, that have experienced something. So we see a lot of that. Just, kind of lessons learned and knowledge sharing in real time. And by being the same contractor, there's really no walls there. So another thing that was one of the crazy ideas that we're on the precipice of completing is going to the operations and site mission support contract. So what that'll be, the former DUF 6 contract's now getting a little bigger, and we're taking on site utilities as well as all your kind of caretaker things, mission support. So things like security guards, your fire response, emergency response, nuclear material control and accountability, some IT work at Paducah. And that's been a huge shift. So this transition began in June. It ends next Tuesday. I think we're going to make it. I got a little more gray in my beard, but but I think we're close. Um, that was just a massive undertaking, and our new contractor MCSA has done a great job, and our USW leadership with Andrea and Gary leading the charge has been just phenomenal, because we had to essentially move about 360 folks at Portsmouth and about 180 at Paducah to this new contracts over the course of about 8 different collective bargaining agreements. So it's been fun. There's about 5,000 procedures that are blue sheeted. So now the real work is going to be to drive that one PPPO approach and make these programs more similar as we go through and revise documents. And it's one of those things that definitely makes a lot of sense. It's just hard to get there. But it'll free up resources and, for April and Myrna and the folks doing the DNR and then the D&D at Portsmouth to truly focus on that D&D and cleanup effort while we're the operations folks keeping things going and providing services to our site tenants. So.
So I want to turn to Bruce here in just a second and ask what else would he, as our economic development guru, like to see come to the community. I also wanted to say, I guess for everyone, some of the challenges really are housing and workforce. And so we're going to be focusing on those and have been for several years now. And it's good to see the steel workers from Paducah here, as they always are at these things. We'll be looking to them for some guidance on what we need to do there. As we heard at another panel yesterday, talking about going into the elementary schools, middle schools, getting the teachers and the staff involved, develop some curriculum for jobs that are going to be coming right down the pike here very shortly with these projects.
Judge, can I just jump in really
go ahead,
quickly on that
Lafontaine.
point? We just had a great kickoff meeting in Paducah this week. We had everyone from UK, Murray State, community colleges, all the way down to Paducah Tillman and McCracken High. Exactly to that point, how do we kind of start this workforce development pipeline from the earliest stages? And so that's one thing I think that we really enjoy about being in Paducah is that everyone in the community who contributes to things like workforce development and education, they're just so aligned in the way that they execute it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bruce?
you. I would close by saying, for most of us in Paducah, McCracken County, the Paducah gaseous diffusion site, it's personal. On a personal level, my father was a laborer who helped build the facility back in 1950. My generation has been part of operating the facility, enriching uranium, and now we're in the decommissioning of the site. But we also have an opportunity to build a future, something for my children, my grandchildren to come home to. So now they don't have to worry about coming home to a job that's tearing something down. We're actually building something back for them to be proud of. I think what we would like to see is it's a unique aspect, 2 enrichment companies, neighbors right next to each other, being exceptionally profitable and successful with General Matter and Global Laser Enrichment. I see a tremendous opportunity for additional fuel fabrication. We're just across the river from the Honeywell site that does conversion process. So I see a conversion aspect that could be capitalized upon there, and even possible some fuel fabrication as well. And of course, all of that would lead into a longer-term vision of nuclear reactors and small modular nuclear reactors co-locating with large industrial activity, data centers, et cetera. And with our proximity with the MISO grid actually being a net generator and powering the grid and providing other communities with power. So, our Paducah played a role in the Manhattan Project and supplying fuel, up to about 1.5%, I think. And then it went to Portsmouth, for up to 5% and even for weapons grade. So, Paducah's always had a role in the nation's security. And I really look forward to us being a major contributor to the Manhattan 2.0, the new data centers and AI initiatives that are going on. So I would end that, as a child growing up, whether it be my mother or grandmother on Sunday afternoon after church, after we'd have lunch, they would always say, "Save your fork." And we knew what that meant, that dessert was coming. So I would ask you all this morning, this afternoon, save your fork. the best is yet to come. You haven't seen it from Paducah yet, so we're on the rise. So we look forward to showcasing what we can do.
Thank you. I show we got just a hair over 5 minutes. Anybody have any other comment, or is there, we've
Well,
got
Bruce
5 minutes
took-
worth of question?
Oh, I was just gonna say Bruce
Jantien?
took all my talking points, but we're excited about the same things. We're excited to come into this community. April and Zach said, it's not about working yourself out of a job. It's about working yourself into the next job. And so we're grateful for the opportunity to be one of those generational employers, to come to Paducah to allow people who have already been there for many generations to continue to have new opportunities. And with the Jeff Six arrangement to quite literally take the legacy of the Paducah gaseous diffusion plant and turn it into the fuel of the future.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
For the Accommodation Environmental Restoration Waste Management Program, working with Hanford Partners, and very glad and appreciative of what you've been able to share with us. From a tribal perspective, I believe that the Yakama Nation has been working very hard alongside with Department of Energy to develop opportunities for the Yakama Nation community to participate. It has been over 75 years since we've been able to go back out onto the landscape. And we're accomplishing that. We're working with state partners as well. And I'm very excited about, offering the opportunity for the Yakama Nation to begin, working more collaboratively overall, on up through, back here, hearing all of the work that's being done, and it's being done in a positive manner. And Yakama Nation is looking forward to, continuing to participate in this manner to develop opportunities for our tribal membership. In the 75 years that we've been participating with Department of Energy, actually since the 1980s, we've developed, an internship program, and I was just excited this morning to, like the light bulb clicked on, and, and I need to go out and kind of work with our interns that have come through our program and have graduated and are able to, go into other opportunities to work with you and to work with other people in learning. It's important, because we live in a rural community, but we're looking at development. We have solar panels going along canal systems that are, going to serve, in a great capacity to the community. And also, we do have our tribal leadership that, they're learning. We don't all have degrees, but like I've heard this morning, sometimes you don't need that degree. You need that training. You need that opportunity. And that's what we're looking for our people, is to take that next step, to work within internships, to learn about nuclear. I heard this morning, you don't go to school to learn about nuclear. You go to train and to gain that understanding and the experience. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I just wanted to share that from a tribal perspective, because it's not just within our communities. I've heard, many, the previous speakers talking about those relationships and how important it is to build that amongst the communities and gain that trust and understanding. And, and I'm very proud of, what we've been able to accomplish. And the other affected tribes at Hanford also have, skilled people that have gone on to get degrees. And, my son is actually working on one of the data centers and as a to get his journeyman for electrician. So you don't need to have that degree to, participate, but you need to be able to gather, those people that are going to help build the community in a more positive manner. And so I'm very excited to hear about this and hoping that, the tribes are one day sitting at the table too, talking about that perspective and how important it is to work through those lessons learned that we are doing at the local level, to be able to fully participate in protection of our natural resources there at Hanford and, other areas.
Let me say this. I think I appreciate those comments and, you got me thinking, what, how wonderful would it be when we start looking for a workforce, if we can draw from across the nation, across, from other peoples, from other cultures, and bring that into our little McCracken County community, we would be enriched. I think we could enrich you and you could enrich us, and it would be one of the better parts of this whole project is to do that in our small community and see that grow and develop. So thank you for those comments.
Yeah, and thank you.
Looks like we're out of time. So, well, thank you very much. If you get a little time, come down and see us in McCracken County, Paducah, Kentucky. We'll treat you right. And we got some good chow. And so we would you join me in thanking our panel for that?